Good afternoon. My name is Art Acevedo, ACE, V as in Victor, EDO. I'm the interim chief of police here in Aurora, Colorado. I've been here a little over 7 months now. I think I sworn on December 5th, 2023, or 22, and my 7th month anniversary was on the 5th. Standing up here with me is our deputy chief, interim deputy chief, Heather Morris, Morris, Chief Hildebrand, one of our division chiefs, Chief Lanigan, I won't call him Janigan, and a person that here in the greater Denver area that doesn't need really introduction, the Reverend Kelly. And Reverend Kelly, Leon Kelly, K-E-L-L-Y, did I spell it right? K-E-L-L-Y. Reverend, is a man that has been working in this community and surrounding communities for many, many years. And some work, Reverend Kelly actually runs Open Door Youth Gang Alternatives in Denver. And in the first few months I've been here, he's been a great community partner, and I look forward to continuing to work with him. First and foremost, I want to once again extend my condolences to Jor'Dell's family, to his mother, his father, his brother, his little sister, his grandma, his extended family. No matter where this investigation takes us, no matter where we end, it is a tragedy because a young man has lost his life. It's a tragedy because we have yet again in this country an encounter involving young people, and acts of violence, and ultimately an officer-involved, police-involved shooting. But no matter what happens with the investigation, the one thing that we know for sure is that family will not have Jor'Dell in their lives again. What I'm going to do this afternoon, in the spirit of transparency, I'm going to provide the community an overview of where we've been, where we're at, and then we will release body-worn camera videos of the two primary officers that engaged in a foot pursuit of Jor'Dell on June 1, 2023. We will release that video at the end of this press conference. On the day of the shooting, I have always, as a police chief, made it a practice to actually respond to officer-involved shooting scenes. I believe that you can rely on a report, or you can rely on your own eyes, and I like to rely on both. I go to a scene, and that night was no different than the other tragic event, because every officer-involved shooting is a tragedy. It's a tragedy for that family who loses their loved one, whether it's a young kid, middle-aged man, woman, it does not matter. That's someone's son again, and a family is going to bury a child, in this case a child, a young child, a youth. So I went to the scene that afternoon with my lights and sirens on to get there quickly, and I was able to gather with my own eyes, information, walk the scene, actually went inside the convenience store, mini mart, whatever we want to call it, where the robbery had occurred, spoke to the young female victim of that robbery. She gave me a little, very quick, I wanted to check on her as one of our community members, and then went back here to headquarters at some point, checked on the officers, and then I really feel very strongly that as a leader, when we have a critical incident involving a member of our community, when a life is taken, that I try to, best I can, when I can, make notification. That night, I actually went with Chief Morris, our victim services manager of our victim service program, and one of our detectives from our homicide unit. I actually was able to make notification to Lori Littlejohn, Jor'Dell's mother, and tried to console her. It's tough, whether it's a death of an officer, when you have to tell an officer's family, or whether it's a death of a member of the community when there's a tragic event. And we actually spent about 45 minutes with her. I gave her a quick overview of what I knew from that time, but I think there's something that's very important to bring out to the community, because unfortunately we live in a time when there's a lot of pressure on the media to put out information, And that pressure sometimes results in accurate information. Quite honestly, sometimes there's mixed characterization of actions by the police department or others. And in this case, I want this community to know that we made very clear that this incident was captured by body-worn camera footage. I made sure that Mr. Littlejohn knew that. I told her, and don't quote me exactly, but I'm going off memory. I've not reviewed anything. I'm going off my memory. This was about 8 days ago, I believe, or 7 days ago now. And 7 or 8? 8 days ago. And I told her, listen, that this body-worn camera footage exists. When you are ready, when your family's ready, when you are ready to review this footage, we will make that happen. You will be able to see and assess and make your own judgments based on what you see. But as you will see today, you know, it goes beyond the body-worn camera footage. It's a lot of things to do, a lot of evidence to gather, and that's but one part of the puzzle. I provided her and other family members that came to the location, her residence, with my business card, my cell phone that's on 24/7, and as I like to do is I make sure people know you can call me 24/7 if you need anything. If there's anything you need, if there's any question that you need answered, please call me. If you need anything, if there's anything you need, if there's any question that you need answered, please call me. Chief Morris did the same, and so did our victim services manager, who's like a very special young lady that does some great work for us. Within a couple days, I started working with the NAACP president here, Omar Montgomery, who's another great partner. NAACP, not just in this city, but every city I've ever worked in, is a great community partner that usually your president and your board members are not just members of the NAACP, but they're actually community leaders. I reached out to him to talk about when the family's ready at some point, that if he could help me facilitate that, and to actually be a liaison. At one point, we actually connected the family with the NAACP to be liaisons with them, and I'm very grateful to him and Reverend Mays, Dr. Mays, who's another community leader that I've spoken with several times since shortly after this incident occurred, and I want to thank both Reverend Mays and Omar for their partnership and for being there for the family and also being great partners for us. Obviously, Reverend Kelly, the Rev, as people that know, love, and respect him in our community, has been working in this community in a lot of capacities for many years, and he's here today to be with us, and will be with the family, who will not start their press conference. In my understanding, speaking to their attorney, they will not start their press conference until we're done, and I appreciate that on their part as well. On Tuesday, June 6, 2023, I'm a police chief. If you know anything about me, I talk a lot about transparency, and the Sunday, more or less on Sunday, June 4th, I believe it was, one of our partners from the Aurora Key Community Response Team, Pastor Reed Heddick, contacted me and asked, Chief, would you mind coming into on Tuesday, our monthly meeting, and actually provide an overview of and a briefing to our committee on this tragic event? And I said, absolutely. In the past, when that has happened, before my administration, those briefings have been private matters. They have not been really open to extended to the public. But in this case, I learned shortly after that Pastor Heddick had invited the community, had posted it, I think on his Facebook page or some other social media. And my staff asked me, do you want to make it private? And I said, no. You know, it's a community meeting. It's an ongoing meeting, and we're not going to change that. I don't have any issue with that, because we need to provide the community with an update. On that day, on Tuesday, June 6th, This critical incident, this tragic event. As I walked up to the location, was able to spot Jor'Dell's family, his mother, got to meet his grandmother for the first time, his father for the first time, and I was again able to extend my condolences to them again, and for the first time, really hold his dad, right? His dad that I had not had an opportunity to speak to. I had seen an interview over the weekend involving a family member that was angry, that said that an officer on the day that the notification was made to the family had said to Lori Littlejohn, hey, I just want I don't think he suffered. And that was me. I think it's very important to put that into context, because Dad was very upset that day. And I understand that. I mean, you should be upset. You've lost a son. But in my career, I've made a lot of death notifications. It's probably the toughest part of our job, both to community members and to members' families of law enforcement. And one of the things that I get asked very frequently is, did my loved one suffer? I'm a spiritual person, and I've said this publicly, so you can probably find it somewhere. I really believe when George Floyd was murdered and he started calling for his mother, my belief is he was seeing his mother coming to get him. That's just my belief. It is what it is, but that's what I believe. And I believe that once we see this video and we go over it, and I pray that Jor'Dell did not suffer, because he lost consciousness very, very, very quickly, went into cardiac arrest, and you will see that our officers immediately began frantically life-saving measures, and fire did the same. And so I just hope and pray that he didn't suffer, that he was in the arms of angels right away when he went into cardiac arrest. So I just want to be very clear about that. That was not an officer, that was in the one house, it was me. And where we can agree my intentions, and I told the family that day, and I told Dad. And I was able to hug him. And again, if that caused any pain to the family, I want to extend my deepest heartfelt apologies, but I want them again to know that I hope that I'm right. I hope that God, that merciful God, and His angels did take him into heavens, and he was in the bosom of God when he went into cardiac arrest and was, doing CPR. So I wanted to bring that up because I think that's really important. Now, in that meeting, that before, as I walked I noticed at least 2 television cameras from the news services. We weren't planning on the media, but once again, I'm not going to shy away from transparency. And I made it very clear. I was asked by the organizers of that meeting if it was okay to bring the media in. I said, absolutely. I just want them in the back facing this one. I want to be disruptive. And so we allowed the media in. I think that's really important. In that meeting on Monday, June 6, 2023, at the Aurora Key Community Response Team meeting, annual meeting here at the library, I provided, again, an overview of what we knew at that time based on what we had done so far. I also talked about that we're hoping, if the family's ready, because we have been working with, again, our partners at the NAACP to let them see the video, the body-worn camera video, and that you just tell me what time, and I will make sure that we clear whatever we had on our calendar. Didn't matter, we would clear it. And I was advised at that time that they were going to try to come in on that day, on June 6th. It's really important for the community to know that in the state of Colorado, before we release body-worn camera footage, under state law, the family has to see the video. And I had announced that morning, I had made the statement that after the family watched the video, that I wanted to release it to the public, what you're going to see today. Unfortunately, the 72-hour notification, the 72-hour time period after the family watches the video, or family representatives watch the video, you must wait 72 hours. And then, hence the 72 hours were today about 2 p.m. This afternoon, the 72 hours expired. And so I got a call that they wanted to come at, I believe, 1 p.m., family representatives and their attorneys, and they came. We had what you're about to watch here. We watched in here with our table set up in a kind of like a triangle. The family representatives came with their attorneys, and they were afforded the opportunity to review these two body-worn camera videos. Now, keep in mind that there are a lot of videos out there in terms of officers that responded to the scene. There was at least one foot pursuit that I'm aware of where the young man ran across the way, and those videos are not germane to the actual why we're here today, and that's the death of Jor'Dell. So we're not releasing those today because there's an ongoing criminal investigation right now that is being conducted by the 18th Judicial District, which in this state, under state law, a police department cannot investigate its own critical incident involving officer-involved shooting. You're required to use a response team, critical incident response team, and that is the entity that is conducting the criminal investigation. In my other states, my department's investigated both the criminal piece, which is here again, it's CERT team, and obviously the administrative piece, which is the internal affairs piece. So we allowed them to review that. So in respect for that process, we're not going to release everything because at the end of the day, the family really wanted to see. I want to speak for the family, but I think the community wants to see what occurred in terms of the shooting of Jor'Dell. Now, that said, let me just say one thing that I think is really important. I have seen some reports out there that the department was, forced, and even an op-ed piece that somehow the Denver Post posted even after we told them that their opinion piece was not even close to being accurate, and quite honestly, it's misrepresented the facts in this case. I wouldn't be having this press conference today had the family not had the strength to send a representative when they did Tuesday to release this. Not allowed. I think that the media knows that. So I think it's really important that that fact is known to the greater community. Because I promised that family on the day that we made that notification that it was captured on body-worn camera video, and when they're ready, that we would facilitate that. It's very important. Because at a time when there's mistrust in government that is a historical high, I think the media has a very important responsibility to make sure that when they cast aspersions or create a belief that we're not doing something that we could do, I think it's really important that the media gets it right. It's really important to this democracy, and so in a world where you're being under attack, I think it's important that we be very accurate. So just to be very clear, today is the first time I could have released this publicly, and the only reason I was able to provide it to the family representative, their lawyers, because they were ready. It was at their time and their choosing, and the location we provided right here in this room. So even though I said I was going to release it right away after they watched it, again, I learned that there was no ability to waive the 72-hour, even for the family. Even the law doesn't allow for that. You have to wait the 72 hours. In addition to the CERT investigation that's ongoing, which again is the critical incident response team from the 18th District, when I arrived here, I changed the way that we conduct our investigations in terms of how we respond, our response protocols. We immediately began our internal investigation, our internal affairs investigation, and that investigation continues today. We also are investigating the actual robbery. We will show you some highlights of that here as part of our transparency of that little convenience mart, if you'll want to call it that. And that is our robbery, our robbery investigative and gang investigation team, our GRIT, which is our gang and robbery investigation team. Okay. All right. Let me see if I have anything here before. Now, today, again, in the spirit of transparency, we are releasing these videos. I'm going to very quickly go over a timeline. I want to keep in mind that we're trying to be as transparent as possible, and so this is the best information we have right now. And so, if anything changes, we will let you know. But If we can go to the first slide, I'd appreciate it. So again, this is the current status. The gang robbery investigation team is responsible for the actual robbery investigation. We actually took 2 of the suspects into custody. Okay, guys, because we're going to use these now. Everybody can step to the side real quick. We have, from the day of the incident of the actual robbery, we have 2 individuals in custody, 2 young people. They're both 14 years of age. The charges that have been filed on them will be false imprisonment and aggravated robbery. That's the 2 young individuals that are in custody. The other young people that are involved in this robbery have been identified, and we're in the process of continuing our investigation to actually locate, apprehend them. The stolen Kia minivan that was used and believed to be part of this robbery, that was the vehicle that brought the group of young people to the location in the back alleyway and left that day without those kids. That stolen Kia minivan has been recovered. It was recovered unoccupied on June 8th by a member of the Aurora Police Department. So that vehicle has been recovered. Again, the 18th Judicial Critical Incident Response Team is currently investigating the officer-involved shooting. And if you have any questions on that piece of this series of investigation, I would refer you to the CERT team. And again, we now immediately begin our internal affairs investigations when we have a critical incident. That is a best practice and something that we do now that isn't done in the past. Next slide, please. Okay, this is a quick timeline with some still photos. Let me just be real clear. The purpose of this timeline is to provide transparency and some factual context to the community members, the members of this community that want to know what happened, when it happened, how it happened. There have been, at that meeting on Tuesday, some more activists were asking questions, and here are some of the answers that we know as of this moment in time. This at 4:17 p.m. and notice that we have seconds on there. Gang Intervention Unit Sergeant Carey airs to his team, and we will actually play this audio from his broadcast at the end of this review. Airs to something to the effect, I got to get turned around, but 5 dudes, black juveniles, all masked up, came from the alley, which is where the investigation will reveal is where that stolen Kia minivan is at, which we are almost 100% certain is the minivan that brought the kids to the location and the minivan that was supposed to take them as a getaway vehicle, but they didn't quite wait. It's black juveniles all masked up, came from the alley and started running toward the strip mall. If you look at the photo that's up there, that is from the business camera, exterior camera, and that is actually what the sergeant would have seen, the appearance of the young kids, but he would have seen it coming from the alleyway where the van was at and coming south along the front of the businesses. But I just want to show just to see, because people are asking, what did they see? Why did he call folks? So we don't need to say anything other than let the community make their own assessments. I think that's really important. So I got to get turned around, but 5 dudes, black juveniles, all masked up, came from the alley and started running toward the strip mall. Next slide. Sergeant Carey then says they're walking south in front of the stores. It looks like to the liquor store. All of them masked up, hoods up, COVID masks, and they're looking around pretty hard. I'm going to get on primary, which means more than likely he changed to another frequency, to a primary frequency, patrol frequency in that location. Sergeant Carey then said, all right, they definitely look like they're looking around. They're setting something up. They haven't gone inside yet, but I don't know if they're casing the liquor store or the Mexican place over there. Next slide, please. And then Sergeant Carey actually turned around, made a U-turn, then went into the alleyway, and that's where he spotted the stolen Kia, ran it, and it came back stolen. The Kia drove away, and he went following them. If you look over here, what you're looking at is interior photos from inside the location where the robbery was committed. On the left, you will see the group of young kids, and at the counter with the white hoodie is Jor'Dell. The indications are, the witness statements, the victim statements in there is that young lady that you see behind the register stated that Jor'Dell raised his sweatshirt and displayed in his waistband a weapon semi-automatic weapon, and she believed that she was going to get hurt, and he made some comments like "any problem," something to that effect, and so she did whatever they told him to do. That is the picture right here. And the picture to the right, you still see Jor'Dell, the other kids in there at the register, and then you'll see a blacked out face right here. This is a female victim that came in to purchase something, and she was ordered to stay inside the store by the young kids. Who gave that order? I don't have the exact information yet, but that is part of the investigation. And so that is why you see the charge against those two kids that were arrested that night of false imprisonment. Next slide, please. By the way, just so, again, what we're putting here in this timeline is what we think are significant points in this video, the body-worn camera video, that is of interest to the community and some of the questions that have been asked. But you make your own assessments, because we'll release everything at the end of this press conference through these body-worn camera videos. At 16:22:00, Officer Snap, who I'll give you his full information in a bit, you can hear him say, "They just shoplifted out of there." If you see this photo to the right, you'll see where that circle is. One of the young individuals, it looks like a white jersey. That's when they ran out as the officers arrived. These are the officers that the sergeant said, "Hey, why don't you guys start coming to the area," something like to that effect. Next slide. So it's at 16:22:00. 16:22:24, the driver officer who was driving with Officer Snap, they're both from the gang intervention team. Officer Snap is the passenger officer. Officer Greska is the driver officer. At 16:22:24, this is from the body-worn camera of the officers. They pull into, and what they see, this is sadly it's Jor'Dell running and holding something in his around his left hand. Appears to be holding something. At 16:22:32, Officer Greska is, you'll see on the video when we release it, says stop and get on the ground, and that was during the when he got out of the car, exits the vehicle, trying to get compliance and get Jor'Dell to stop and comply with her commands. You'll also see that Officer Greska comes in where you see that back wall right there, attempted to push Jor'Dell against that wall and barely missed, but you will see that action. Next slide, please. At 16:22:35, Officer Greska says, this body-worn camera footage here is from Officer Greska's, who's the officer, ends up discharging one round. It's from his body-worn camera. As you can see, he's behind a little bit of a distance from Officer Snap, who's closer to him. Officer Greska, you will hear him say at this point, quote, "Get on the ground or I'm going to tase you." But as you can see, and you will see on the video, he's really not in effective range of the taser. If you know tasers, the further are the prongs, they actually do this. They actually spread, and the spread at that range would have been problematic, would not have been effective. But an officer usually yells that, trying to get compliance and get someone to stop fleeing on foot and try to surrender and get on the ground. So you will hear that on there. At 16:22:36, as Officer Snap chases, this photo here is it is a still shot from Officer Snap's body-worn camera, and more or less this time you hear he's closed the distance, he's closed the gap, he's close to tackling Jor'Dell, and you can hear him say, "Get on the ground, you fucking idiot," at some point there. Next slide, please. At 16:22:39, here's a close-up of Jor'Dell, and again, his hand is in the vicinity of his waistband, and I'm not going to characterize anymore. You can make your own assessment, and that will be part of the investigation. Next slide, please. I apologize for the water, but if you're not from Colorado, it is it's an issue. It's hard to stay hydrated in the state, especially with lights on you. So I apologize for the water. Now, we put these on here today, but I want the community to know, because people are going to ask, what happened? Did he surrender? You're going to see a lot of different narratives. It's really important for the community to know that what we're talking about is thousands of seconds. It's almost simultaneous, and quite honestly, it's the sound that we put here comes from different officers. There's two body-worn cameras, and so let me just say this: our investigation is ongoing, but we have slowed down these videos. We've backed them up. We are in a controlled, safe environment here, in an air-conditioned building. The attorneys for the families got to review these videos, and we backed them up, slowed them down, went frame by frame. These officers did not have the opportunity to assess threats and to go frame by frame. They didn't have an opportunity to back up. They didn't have an opportunity to do any of that. It happened real time. And so it's really important. I really believe that we always have to be really upfront and transparent in terms of when these things go. I'm not going to speak for the criminal, but all of you in here, see a lot of seasoned reporters, the objective reasonableness, which is going to be internally and administratively, of the use of deadly force. We make those decisions, we make those assessments, backing it up, slowing it down. Just reminding the community that is not what happened in the incident. The incident happened real time, it happened quickly, and again, we put this, but we're talking about thousands of seconds and just very quick time frames. What you see at 16:22:40, Officer Snap tackles Jor'Dell. At 16:22:42, Jor'Dell says, "Stop, please, you got me." At 16:22:43, which is, again, a fraction of seconds, Officer Gretzka says, gun, let go of the fucking gun. At 16:22:45, Officer Gretzka says, "I'm going to shoot your ass, dude. I'm going to shoot you." At 16:22:50, you hear a single gunshot. Next slide. What you see here is the weapon that Jor'Dell was carrying on his person, and it's a still shot from Officer Gretzka gaining control of it and starting to throw it and clear it away from them as they continue to try to take Jor'Dell into custody. Next slide, please. I think you might have moved too quickly for me. Back it up real quick. At 16:22:52, that's that photo that I just described. Everybody get that? Understand that? You'll see it for yourselves in a minute. Next slide, please. At 16:22:54, Jor'Dell says, "I'm sorry, I'm done. Help me, take me to the hospital. Get it, I can't breathe, help." 16:22:58, Officer Gretzka airs on the radio that shots are fired. Officer Snap is asking him if he got the gun, and he tells him he did. You'll hear that almost simultaneously from Officer Snap asking Officer Gretzka. At 16:23:12, Officer Gretzka then airs again that shots are fired behind the restaurant. He then says, "Give me medical fast." Officers then ask Jor'Dell for his name and say, "Hang with me, bud." There's something that I'm not sure why we don't have it in here, but I just think it's really important. At one point, you hear the officer say, "Get the fuck off the air." That's because officers were talking, because we had other kids fleeing, and they wanted to get on the air to call for medical aid for Jor'Dell. But you'll see that in there. At 16:23:12, Officer Gretzka then airs again that shots are fired behind the restaurant. And then says, "Give me medical fast." Officers then ask Jor'Dell for his name and say, "Hang with me, bud." At 16:23:29, Jor'Dell says, "They made me do it. I don't know who they were. They made me do it." And you'll hear some more conversations, but I know that the critics will try to judge what we have highlighted, we didn't highlight, but at the end of the day, we're releasing everything and folks can determine what's important to them. That's not, we just felt we wanted to give enough based on what folks had asked. Next slide, please. Here, Jor'Dell is face down, and I think, face up, excuse me, and what you're seeing is one of the officers actually very quickly trying to ascertain if he had any other weapons, and Jor'Dell says something to the effect, "No, that's it. I don't have any other." Let me just say this, because people always ask, why do officers, the weapons they threw the weapon, why are they asking for more, looking for more weapons? Because unfortunately, where there's one gun or one weapon, there's other weapons. And for the safety of the officers and ultimately for the individual themselves, you always look for either a secondary weapon, a secondary firearm, knife, or whatever, but that's just protocol. And while some folks don't think that's valid, I can tell you that for a fact that we find second handguns, pistols, knives on individuals all the time. Jor'Dell sustained a single gunshot wound to his abdomen midsection there. The family asked us to, and I'm glad they did, to blur the wound. And so that's what you see covering that area. It's I can just tell you it's very small. It's not dramatic, the actual photo, but it's still something that I'm so grateful to them for covering it. Next slide, please. At 16:24:57, another gang intervention team officer arrives with a medical kit. You will actually see that officer running with a medical kit from the north, south, and the alleyway to help render aid to Jor'Dell. With the medical kit, about 2 minutes after shots fired was called out, he was able to bring in that medical kit. Officer Snap checks for a pulse and says he feels one. Other officer puts glove on and starts CPR at a point. At about 16:27:01, paramedics arrive and assume patient care. And at 16:29:26, Officer Gretzka walks away from officers, and you can hear him say in his to himself a couple of times, "God, please be with that kid." And that is shortly after that, both officers are escorted to vehicles and transported separately by officers to the major crimes unit here and to our headquarters where they were brought. So that is the end of that, the actual timeline. Let me just say that were we able to condense it, the 4-minute gap there? Okay, so I just want to be, again, transparency. We are releasing the video, the two officers' body-worn camera videos at the end of this press conference. That will be the last thing we'll do. It will have the officers' actions from the time, the two officers, from the time that they engaged in responding to this call to the time that they actually get into the vehicle or as they approach the vehicles to be transported back. That is being released. There was a 4-minute gap, and so that didn't have any activity. But I think it's really important for us to show the last piece, our Officer Gretzka, showing his humanity and the fact you will see how they try to save lives, that he feels this. I think for anyone to think that he didn't, they'd be silly. So we put the profanity, well, we're going to put the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then we will release everything. We didn't want 4 minutes, wasting the time of everybody here. We just wanted to just put that out publicly. Next slide, please. This is the weapon recovered at the scene that was used in the robbery, and that's the spot it was recovered. That you will see the officer grab and throw. And next slide. And then here, you will see two firearms. The firearm on the left is an HK-USP 9mm, and the fire on the right is an HK-USP pellet gun. And I can tell you that yesterday I was able to confirm with my team that he was actually carrying the firearm on the right, which is an exact replica of the firearm he was carrying, the weapon he was carrying when he committed the robbery. So we put them side by side there. So can you back it up one more time? So that is the firearm at the scene on the ground. And then next slide. Go, next slide. Oh, and there it is. And then that's the side by side of the 9mm and the HK USP, which basically, if you look very closely, it says in small print, Cal 4.5mm, and you can find those later on. You can find them online. Okay. Now, let me just real quickly go over what we're going to do next. We're going to put out the audio. This will be Sergeant Carey. Let me just tell you what you will hear. Can you show me at 8th and Dayton? I got to get turned around, but 5 dudes. Can you put it up so you can see it? But 5 dudes, black juveniles, all masked up, came from the alley and started running toward the strip mall. He then broadcast they're walking south from the stores. It looks like the liquor store. All of them masked up, hoods, COVID masks, and they're looking around pretty hard. I'm going to get on primary. That's when you change frequencies. All right, they definitely look like they're looking around. They're setting something up. They haven't gone inside yet, but I don't know if they're casing the liquor store or the Mexican place over there. And so we will now play his, because that's a big question the community has. What did he see? What did he say? And now we'll play the audio of his radio traffic. No questions until we're done. Thank you. Who are you with?
Gentlemen.
Yeah, we'll get to the question. We don't just want to be just to get it done here. Because it might change your entire question.
I would turn around with 5 dudes, black juveniles, all masked up, came from the alley and started running towards the strip mall. Come back over there to it. And then in front of the stores, it looks like to the liquor store. All of the masks that COVID masks. And they're looking up at the end. I'm gonna get for it, man. Did you guys see what's up there, Charlie? The best thing to look at, they're looking around and set something up. They haven't decided yet that I don't know if they're targeting the liquor store or the Mexican place over there.
All right. Again, I want to make sure we're clear. You saw the firearm, the weapon that he was carrying is a pellet gun. I'll be real clear. And I confirmed that yesterday with our team here. Now we're going to show Officer Snap's body-worn camera footage, and that is, again, the passenger officer that ends up tackling. Am I in the way if I stand here from any of your shots? Okay. Go ahead and let's play Officer Snap's body-worn camera.
Sergeant, want me to get on primary?
Yeah, we're still hanging out right in front of the
I got it. Jackson.
Jackson. anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we're gonna be in the area of 6th and Dayton. 8th and Dayton. I'm sorry, 8th and Dayton. There's 5 or 6 kids all masked up, COVID masks. It looks like they might be scoping out the liquor store or the Mexican restaurant here. If we can set up some cars in the area. They've got some unmarked, keeping an eye on it.
I don't have an eye on them now. I had to maneuver.
Where's the Mexican restaurant?
See if you guys ever seen that.
He said 8th and Dayton.
1 second, we're coming in there.
He said this
Right
little
here. I
like
think it's right here.
further like this. This little thing.
Yeah, this one's right here. Yeah, all the
Running
cameras.
north. One of them's running north.
Yeah, they just shoplifted out of there.
There's a black Kia van in the alley.
Oh my God.
Hold on. Come on. You're chasing them. Get on the ground, you fucking idiot!
Oh, please! No! Here, grab me! Grab me!
Bro,
Ah! I'm sorry! I'm done! Oh, help me take you to the hospital! Please!
do you have the gun?
Get it!
You have the gun?
Get it! I can't breathe out!
Yeah.
Get off me! Grab me! Here, get off! Help! Please! Can you take me to the hospital, please?
Get off the radio. Shots fired just east behind the restaurant. Give me medical fast. Cops code 4. Suspect shot in the stomach. Stay with me, bud. Hold on, okay? Let's cuff him.
They made me do it.
Huh?
I don't know what they were. They made me do it.
Okay. Hang with me, bud. What's your name?
I think we're all right. Cuffs.
You help me,
just-
please. Take the mask off. Please, please. Legs, I can't feel them. Please get off my arms, I'm done.
Okay. Do you have any other weapons?
No.
Okay. Breathe, okay? Look at me. What's your name? How old are you, bud? Do you know your birthday? You know your birthday? Suspect is unresponsive. I'll close fire. All right, let's start CPR. Yes,
Hey, wake up! Wake up! Stay awake for me, okay? Stay awake for me. Stay awake. Hey, stay awake. Keep talking to me, bro. Hey, you okay? Stay awake with me. Stay awake with me. Stay awake. Hey. Stay awake with me.
We got a pulse? Let's check. Stay with me, buddy. What's your name?
Yeah, we just get some pressure.
I got a pulse.
He's got a gunshot wound right here.
Okay. Here, I'll start CPR. All right. has a gun behind me that probably needs to...
That's his gun. Nick, I can switch out with you when you need.
Okay.
Hey guys, can you hang out?
My keys are still in my car.
You mind hanging out?
It's like in this alley over here.
You want me to take it?
I'm good for probably till they get here.
Just for a point of reference on the way we're trained, if you're involved in critical incidents, our officers are trained that as soon as they can, they walk away and another officer takes primary care. I can tell you I've seen over the years where officers do not render care, and I'm very proud of the fact that our officers immediately started comforting Jor'Dell and started rendering medical aid. The next body-worn camera video, which you will see a different perspective, is from Officer Greska, and you will be able to see and hear the noise, the sounds will be a little different and more distinct depending on who was speaking at the time. Okay, go ahead and roll it.
I guess I'll stay on.
Sorry, don't make it on primary.
Yeah, we're still hanging out, right?
Okay, I got it. Jason.
Jason. You're on gang.
Jason. You ever been in the area of 6th and Dayton?
8th and Dayton.
8th and Dayton, I'm sorry, 8th and Dayton. There's 5 or 6 kids all masked up, COVID masks. It looks like they might be scoping out the liquor store, the Mexican restaurant here. If we can set up some cars in the area. We've got some unmarked, keep an eye on.
And I don't have an eye on him now. I had to maneuver.
Alright, we're gonna do this. Where's the Mexican
If
restaurant?
you guys able to see that?
He said 8th and Dayton.
1 second, we're coming in the area.
Is it this little, like,
It's right here.
it'd be further, like this little thing?
Yes.
They're running north.
Yeah,
Running north. One of them's running north.
yeah, they just shoplifted out of there.
There's a black Kia van in the alley.
I'm gonna light him up. Hold on, stand by. We'll go. Come on.
They're chasing them. Get on the ground, Aurora, please!
gun! Gun! Let go of the fucking gun! I'm gonna shoot your ass! Dude, I'm gonna shoot you! Dude! Oh, fire! Fuck! Oh, fuck! Gang 7 shots fired.
You have the gun?
Fired.
You have the gun? You have it?
Yeah.
Get off me, grab me. Hey, get off me. Please. Keep taking off of me.
Get off the fucking... Get off the radio. Shots fired just east behind the restaurant. Give me medical fast. Cops code 4. Suspect shot in the stomach. Stay with me, bud. Hold on, okay? Let's cuff him.
They made me do it.
Huh?
I don't know what they were doing.
Okay, okay. Hang with me, bud. What's your name?
I think we're all right with cuffs.
Yeah, well,
Sure. Hey, hang with me.
take the mask
Hang
off.
with me.
Please, please. Legs, I can't feel them. Please get off my arms, I'm done.
Okay, okay. Do you have any other weapons?
No.
Okay, okay. Breathe, okay? Look at me. What's your name? What's your name? Here. How old are you, bud? Do you know your birthday? Do you know your birthday? Gang 7. Suspect is unresponsive. How close fire? All right, let's start CPR. You got CPR?
Hey, wake up! Wake up! Stay awake for me, okay? Stay awake for me.
Bad.
Stay awake. Hey,
Stay awake with me,
Keep
buddy.
talking to me, bro. Hey, you okay? Stay awake with me.
We are
Stay awake.
behind the business in the east side alley.
Stay awake.
One suspect
Hey.
down, he's unconscious. We're looking for
Stay
a
awake
pulse.
with me.
Do we got a pulse? Let's check. Stay with me, buddy. What's your name?
Yeah, let's just get some pressure.
I got a pulse.
He's got a shot wound right here. Okay.
Here, I'll start CPR.
All right. That's it.
You guys good?
Yeah, I shot one shot.
There's a gun behind me that probably needs.
Yeah, that's his.
That's it.
Okay.
These guys, witnesses. Hey guys, can you hang out so cops can chat with you? Do you mind hanging out for a minute? Please? Thank you so much. God, please be with that kid. God, please be with that kid. God, please, God. God, please be with that kid.
One of the things that I will point out that the officer say, hey, he sees the witnesses, that's Officer Gretzka that actually discharged the one round. So he's the one that's actually asking those people very politely that he believes to be witnesses to remain behind. Sergeant Carey, who's the sergeant that supervises the GIU, was hired in 2011 by the police department. He's, again, assigned to a gang intervention unit as a sergeant in 2022. Officer Gretzka was hired in 2017. Gang intervention, joined the gang intervention unit in 2019. Officer Snap was hired in 2017 and joined the gang intervention unit in 2022. Neither one of the officers have any significant use of force issues, incidents, or significant disciplinary histories. Before I open up the questions, Reverend Kelly wanted to just share a perspective as a community leader that's been in this community for a long time, doing a lot of the work in Denver. Reverend, if you come up and take the stand. Thank you. Thanks again for being here.
Good evening. Questions have been asked as to why I'm even here. Now, this may be your first time seeing the video and understanding, trying to get an understanding as to what happened on that day. And I'm always telling people straight off that, one, I wasn't there. You weren't there. A lot of people weren't there. But the facts of the matter is that we got a kid that is dead. My thing over these years, I've seen, unfortunately, a number of these incidents that ended this way. I wouldn't be standing here if I didn't have compassion toward the family. And if the family and others are saying that they want to protest, my thing is, why protest? What is the purpose? The purpose is transparency. Transparency. And if this is what the family and the community and the hood want, transparency, cool, I'm good, and I'm with that. But my thing is transparency across the board. Now, you saw the body camera, the body footage. And then, you know, the body footage, in my opinion, is somewhat inclusive. You know, there's some things that you still, I could understand when they said that we watched the video and there's some more questions that need to be asked. True that. But my thing is transparency, and I even told the chief, how much is the public to know? There's been times that I felt that there was elements of secrecy, covering up, things of that sort. Dealing with this, and from what I've seen, and from the other folks who saying that, okay, we've seen the body camera, but what about the other videos that was around? People got to understand that this is still a ongoing investigation, ongoing. And if somebody's going to be held accountable based on the findings of the independent sources, you know, there are those things that do not want to tarnish the investigation. Everybody's marching, everybody's talking about, I want to see the body camera. You saw it. You saw the footage. It wasn't pretty, but that's what happened. Others had even told me that body footage could be sort of altered. You saw what I saw. You saw what happened. If we're focusing on transparency, if that's what the public wants, if that's the family wants, all that, my thing is transparency, you know, across the board. We say, who holds the police accountable? Okay. Who holds the family accountable? Okay. My question has still been, who holds the hood accountable? These kids who was with him. Who took time to pull somebody's coattail and say, don't, let's not do this? Why is it the only time that Jor'Dell, this little 14, a good kid who made a bad choice? Over my 40 years of dealing with this, I've seen a lot of good kids make bad choices. So here we are. And then some of you have been around as long as I have. You've seen that there's been times that we didn't see body camera for weeks, body footage for weeks. Now we're only a few days out. And Chief, you know, you stepped up and said, I need to be transparent. I want to be transparent. No matter what the outcome is, I want to be transparent. And my thing is holding people accountable, holding them. If a kid goes in and, you know, when it was just that quick, you had me mention it was a pellet gun. It went out that this kid died over a toy. They shot him over a toy. I am an instructor. I am a pistol instructor. I shoot every week. I do a lot of classes. I try to get people to understand, even as a pellet gun, as a toy gun. And in this case, most of you probably, if you didn't know, that second gun was a pellet gun. What would put in the minds of a kid to go in and address the owner of a store and pull up the jersey and say, give us what we asked for? There was no resistance. They did what they did. These kids didn't expect to enter out of that store, to go out of that store and run into resistance. kid ran. In the minds of anybody, and if my, as far as even instructing and teaching folks about it, you don't know. If it was a pellet gun, who knows that? None of you here would have known that. But somebody put in the minds of this kid, 14 years old, let's go jack this store with a pellet gun. They didn't expect resistance. They didn't expect the outcome to be the way it is. So I want to make sure that I'm here because from what I've seen and my experiences over these decades of kids and people who want to have sidearms, many of these kids, 14 years of age, have no clue. They have no clue of what the outcome. None of these kids thought that they were going to come out and this was going to be the end result. And I'm telling you, as the investigation unfolds, other things are going to come out on the other side of influencing this kid to do what he chose to do. So certainly my spirit, my heart goes out to the family of the loss of this youngster. But we're living in a generation now that decades ago, my average age on my death list was 17 to 24. Now I'm dealing with 11 to 17. And there is a group of these youngsters at this age that are doing things that is unforeseen, unthought about. And I see a side of it that generally a lot of the public don't see. I see the side of a kid that many times the family don't see. How do I feel about this? It's tragic, yes. But unfortunately, this is my 41st year of dealing with this.
Black children, a mother who is afraid.
To hold the police and others accountable. The question still is, Chief, like I told you, we talk, my thing is right is right, wrong is wrong. And as the investigation unfolds, if anybody's seen anything different than what I've seen of, let bring it forth. But until that happens, we need to deal with the element of peace. We need to get people and community to understand this is not a George Floyd. This is not the other kid that was killed there. This is in a completely different realm, and it was not a shoplifting ordeal. This was technically a robbery. It was in the commission of a crime. Transparency, sometimes people don't want to hear and know really the truth. And when the truth really comes out, it may paint a nasty, ugly picture. So I just wanted, the reason I'm here, Chief, to be able to support the truth. Be able to, people who are asking me 100 questions. Because again, like I said, I wasn't there, they weren't there. But the things that we were able to see, if there is something I felt that was to be covered up and all that, we wouldn't even be here today. We wouldn't be able to see what we see today. So again, that answers, I would hope, the question as to why I am here. It may not sit well with others out there who think that this kid was killed over a pellet gun, over a BB gun, over a toy. When I teach my classes, there are some units that you have no clue if it is real or not. And in the time of pursuit and all of that, they ain't gonna take time to ask, is this a toy? That clerk, when she saw him raises, didn't ask the question, is it a pellet gun or is it a toy? She was under fear of harm. Who put him up to doing this? It wasn't the police. Who put him up to doing this? It wasn't the library, it wasn't the church people. Who was gonna hold all parties accountable? So some of those kids out there who may be hearing and looking at this interview and all of this stuff, you ask that question. Who's holding the hood accountable? Who's holding you accountable? And people who want to get out there and protest and march and all that, we are dealing with shooting just about every day. And as I say that, it seemed like, Chief, as long as we shoot ourselves, it ain't no big issue. And others, I say what I say because I see the other side of it. The assaults, the phone calls I get about they came in and jacked me and these were kids. What do we do? So again, I would like to thank by those of you who are here who are putting this out there. Let the narrative be the way that it needs to be. Let judgment be in a position of waiting till the fullness of investigation is done. You demanded to see the body cam. You saw. You saw what I saw. Yes, there were questions, but yet me in my field of work, I could answer those questions based on my knowledge. So again, Chief, that's why I'm here. That's what I'm at.
Thank you, Pastor, for joining us. I'll make sure I won't spill anything. Okay, with that, I'll open up to any questions, but let me finish. I want to make sure very clear. I'm going to do very quickly, just a few minute or so in Spanish. As you know, this is the most diverse city in the state of Colorado, and I think that our Spanish-speaking community wants to know a little bit of what happened. So it'll be very high-end, high level, and then we'll go into questions. Como dijimos el otro día, con este evento, esta tragedia ocurrió. Desgraciadamente vimos una familia que perdió un hijo, pero como vieron esta investigación que estamos haciendo aquí ahorita, el Departamento de Policía de Aurora está tomando la investigación sobre el robo de estos jóvenes. Esta es nuestra investigación. La investigación sobre la muerte del muchacho que murió es la responsabilidad del fiscal del juicio 18 y la responsabilidad de la investigación interna es la responsabilidad de la policía de Aurora y nuestra unidad de asuntos internos. Las tres investigaciones continúan y van a seguir continuando. Para la transparencia es muy importante para nosotros. Quiero que la comunidad sepa que este jefe, cuando ve que escucha que hay un tiroteo de policíaco, inmediatamente voy a la escena, miro la evidencia con mis propios ojos, hablo con la víctima, como dice aquí, con la muchacha que estaba en ese negocio cuando asaltaron, y todo lo que está aquí es en el espíritu de transparencia. El día que esto ocurrió, el día 1 de junio, la semana pasada, yo fui personalmente con la número 2, la deputy aquí, a la casa, al apartamento de este joven que esta tragedia perdió su vida, y personalmente hablé con la mamá y le dije lo que ocurrió. Mi corazón está con ellos, mis pensamientos están con ellos, mis oraciones están con ellos, pero también está con nuestros oficiales, que el oficial especialmente que tomó una vida. Vieron aquí oficiales que estaban tratando de hacer tu trabajo, y hoy en la transparencia, de nuevo, lo que vieron fue, hemos determinado aquí, ayer me dieron una notificación que la arma de fuego, la arma que tenía el joven que murió es un pellet, pero es una réplica exacta de una pistola normal. Al fin del día, la transparencia es muy importante para la investigación científica. Dos o tres preguntas en español y voy a seguir para el inglés, ¿ok?
¿Qué quiere decir eso? ¿Qué quiere decir eso? ¿Es de juguete?
No es un juguete. Mire, esas armas son armas de fuego de pellet, pero dice bien claro, dice que puede causar daño grave y puede causar muerte. Si déjeme terminar, por favor. Si una persona piensa que es un juguete, busque un pellet así como ese y mire que le meten un tiro en el ojo. Número 1. Número 2, si piensa que es un juguete, vamos a obtener la arma de fuego que es verdadera.
I was at the Colorado Department of Corrections, Colorado State Penitentiary, where they place people in administrative segregation. I left there to come here. So either they're burying our black and brown bodies alive, or they're putting us in the grave. We must get serious, community, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Action must happen. Youth, your voices need to be at the table everywhere. You, this is your future, this is your life. I support you, I want you at the table. I will elevate your voice. Everyone else up here, we're irrelevant. That's your world, and you are the ones who need to lead the charge. We're burning out. By the time the things that we have changed, we will be gone, and you will be left with it. Stand up. This is your future, and do not quiet your voice ever. We demand accountability for Jor'Dell Richardson. We demand that.
Is Javier still here? Reverend Avery? If he's here, could someone send him up? He's coming. So my name is Elizabeth Epstein. I've just been telling myself that surely if Javier Mabry is close, then I won't say anything that'll get me put out of my job. I'm also not going to cry. When I pulled into the parking lot, there's a parent who I know who was leaving with their child, and we spoke for a minute. I lost sight of them, they're back now, and I asked where were they going. They were leaving to go and use the bathroom at a house nearby, and I asked why. It's 3 o'clock on a Friday. Why don't you go into the city and county building? That's what we call it in Denver. Why don't you just go inside and use the bathroom? Genuinely confused. And the explanation was, well, they closed the city early, they locked things up. Because what? Because we're here? Think about how scared, unjustifiably scared certain folks are.
Press conference to somehow, I don't know about him, but the purpose of this press conference is to be transparent and to fully discuss, to the best of my ability, what led to the death of a 14-year-old kid in this community. And his considerations in terms of what is important to him is not as important. I'm not going to come in here and rush this press conference because that's what he thinks I should do, and shame on him. But again, that's his job. So with that, I'm going to open up the questions, but please keep in mind that there are open investigations. I'll try to answer as many as to the best of my ability. Yes, sir. And just say who you are and where you're from, because I don't know everybody here.
It's down and on this vaccine. You gave us the name of 3 officers. Can you give us the full name and spelling of the officer who fired the shot?
The officer is, I can get it to you. I don't know all the names. The first name is Rock. R-O-C-H. He is Hispanic. He's of Hispanic descent, and he actually, Gretzka, that's the officer that discharged the firearm.
Last name?
Gretzka, right there. Yeah, and his first name's R-O-C-H. And by the way, just so you know, I was asked that question at that forum the other day, in that community forum, and he just looks Hispanic to me, but we make a lot of assumptions. I think he's Hispanic, but he has like a different name, and but I promised the activist that asked me that I would confirm his ethnicity, and he self-identifies as Hispanic. Yes, sir. Because you tried earlier, and I'll go back to you. I apologize.
Earlier on the 6th during that community meeting, you talked about not knowing exactly why the officers fired, hadn't read statements from them. Have you done that at this point? Why did they fire the guns?
I can tell you that I won't be specific because the challenge for me is that I'm not responsible for the critical incident response team, but I can say that there's not they fired. There's only one shot fired by one officer, Officer Kretzka, and yesterday they both voluntarily submitted to interviews with the critical incident response team, and they provided full statements, including why he felt it necessary to fire, but out of respect for an investigation that's still ongoing, I'm not going to get into that here because I don't think that would be appropriate for me because I'm not in charge of the criminal investigation. And out of respect for that process, I won't say that. Other than to say that that was covered in their interviews, in their voluntary interviews with the criminal investigators.
In that case, sir, when you watch this video, do you think
I think it's the same thing, right? Out of respect for that investigation, I don't want to taint the criminal investigation. I think Reverend Kelly talked about the importance of ensuring that we have as transparent as possible, but I don't think it would be appropriate of me not to mention the fact that I have not personally reviewed or read the statements, and we're not done with the investigation. I know there are other videos out there that exist, but from our investigation, we don't believe that any of the other videos that we have located to date in that part of where the shooting occurred would add any perspective. So I'm going to, out of respect for that investigation, I'm going to withhold my judgment. En español, una en español.
Sí. Jefe, una pregunta. Quisiera saber cuál es el estado del oficial en este momento, si se encuentra bien y en qué condición se encuentra con respecto al departamento de policía. Y segundo, nos vimos orar por este muchacho, pedirle a Dios por su salud. Él ha manifestado que lo hizo intencionalmente o fue un accidente.
No, yo sé que fue intencionalmente cuando estaban ahí en el piso y los oficiales están doloridos, nadie quiere tomarle una vida. Y hasta el oficial que no disparó también está muy dolorido. Esto es algo que no es un sueño. ¿Qué cosa es? Un nightmare. ¿Cómo se dice en español?
Pesadilla.
Una pesadilla que ningún oficial quiere. Yes, sir.
I think you said at the beginning something to the fact that you're almost 100% sure that they were using that stolen Kia. Is there ambiguity about that?
No, look, I've been in this business long enough to know that never say never, but we're about 100% sure that that stolen Kia was the Kia that was used to drive the group of young kids to the location, and it was supposed to have been the getaway car. Sergeant Rock turned, and when Sergeant Carey, after he called it out, made a U-turn, went into the alleyway behind where the group of kids came from, and that's when he spotted the vehicle. So we're confident, but until the investigation is completely done, you can't say 100%, but it's about as 100% as it can be.
And then, so
And we do have the vehicle, and we have recovered the vehicle.
And do we know the origin of the vehicle then?
Yeah, I know it was stolen, but I'm not going to, again, provide any more details out of respect for the CERT investigation that the 18th is conducting. And quite honestly, we have a criminal investigation that's ongoing into the actual robbery, where we're still trying to find the driver of that vehicle. And so to not hamper that investigation, we're not going to provide any more information. Yes, ma'am.
So when do you guys case and when is it appropriate to do that?
You know what? I think that, quite honestly, that was asked before. When a threat involves a firearm, the vast majority of the times, police officers are trained across this country and probably the free world that when a threat of a deadly threat presents itself, when a firearm is involved, in most circumstances, you're going to address that threat with another firearm. In this case, Officer Rock is, I can just tell you from my perspective, looking at that video, the tasing would not be effective at that distance. Yes, ma'am. Who are you with?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Colleen Slevin with the State Student Press.
Okay.
You were kind of hinting at this before, but I want to make sure I understand. Do you have any other evidence besides the body camera that you can share about what Jor'Dell was doing with the gun? You can't see what he was doing with the gun in the video. Do you have any other information about what he was doing?
Well, there's other witnesses that you can see that officer actually discharged the firearm, actually that I have not read the interview yet, but that is part of the investigation. That is the little bit of the ambiguity. That's going to be the question that the investigation will continue. So I can just tell you that with this video, we put it out there so people can make their own initial assessments, but the investigation will be a very comprehensive investigation, including, we know for a fact that he used it to commit an armed robbery. Well, there's no ambiguity there, but we're still looking to thoroughly answer that question.
So you don't know right now whether he pointed the gun at the officers?
I can just tell you that the firearm was here he had it, we know definitively he had it in his waistband. And as you can see, you'll all make your own assessments, what he's holding. We know without a doubt it was on his person still, just like it was in the robbery. And again, when the shot is fired, you'll see that Officer Gretzko finally gets control of the firearm or the weapon that turns out to be a pellet version, but it's still a weapon that he throws to create distance. So that's part of the investigation. What else? Go ahead.
Yeah, Max Levy with the.
I know you, Max.
Yeah. Will the Aurora Police Department, you mentioned the CERT investigation, will the Aurora Police Department continue in the current arrangement with the 17th and 18th judicial districts to undertake this investigation?
Yeah, you know what, I have actually, I know that I've made comments about the CERT teams in terms of the process, but I want to be real clear. Like I said at the meeting Tuesday, I think they're very thorough investigations, but from a process standpoint, I'm not sure that the process in terms of how we approach our response to it is quite consistent with what I would like. I've actually talked to the DAs about it. It's something that I'm open to, but I won't make a final decision until we talk about that process issue that has no impact on the actual investigation, but I think it's really important for me and to address this process issue. So we'll see.
What would be the entity that would take care of this investigation?
Well, you know what, I don't want it won't, obviously, that's yet to be determined, but I have had conversations with other entities that are, and more than one entity. But my understanding from talking to some of the folks is that start getting us into those CERT teams was it was a work in progress. And have not been here for that history, I out of respect to the fact that they put a lot of work to put the CERT teams together, I want to have further conversations with the DAs. I think we've got two phenomenal DAs from both sides of the aisle. So we talk about bipartisanship. We're very fortunate that we live in a community where our city is served by both sides of the aisle, and we will make that final determination at a later date. I appreciate you asking that question. Who are you?
Elise, Denver Post.
Hi.
Hi. Is there other video that shows the struggle, to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, no. We have not found. We have not found any from our internal investigative team that shows it that shows it to an extent will be helpful. But I know that we checked the areas, and I'm sure the CERT team did as well. And I'm not going to update anything. The CERT team do theirs, but I'm not aware of any that actually will add perspective or bring clarity to that question in terms of that struggle what was your name again? Colleen from the Associated Press asked about. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because again, CERT team might have found something we're not aware of yet. Yes, sir.
Chief Mark Hatro from CBS News, Colorado. I'm wondering, as far as that pellet gun, is there requirements for those orange colors, or is that only for toys? Or?
You know what? They don't. For a while, they were putting those orange tips on some of the models, and the one I remember most back in the day was the Beretta 92. What is 92F? What is the Beretta? The bigger one? And what happened is the gang members started putting painting the tips of their Berettas orange. I have not seen any orange ones lately, and I don't know of any requirements. But in the past, I know that there were some models that had the orange, and unfortunately, what we ended up finding was that gang members and people committing violence were painting their tips orange. Look, let's put this incident aside for 1 second. I want to be real clear. Let's put this incident aside for 1 second. We have hundreds of millions of real firearms in this country. Every caliber, long rifles, shotguns, assault rifles, we have everything. What is the purpose of, and I've been saying this for years, what is the purpose of a realistic replica? I mean, a replica that is designed and marketed to look like the real thing? And by the way, that includes warnings that it can cause serious bodily injury or death, which what the pellet weapon system actually show. I don't see the purpose. See, but we live in a country where our guns are, you got God and guns. What is the purpose of this? What's the purpose? I'm putting this incident aside. My 15-year-old, dad's a cop, His uncle's in the Army. I mean, he likes guns. I did buy him one of those because that's what he wanted. But guess who has complete control of that? I do. And the only time he gets to utilize that is with Dad is there. Even in our backyard where we have a backstop, with Dad there. I want to be real clear. This is not to cast aspersions on anyone involved in this incident. But like Rev said, we got to talk about the next kid that's going to rob a store with that replica, or the next kid that maybe decides to, in a world where everyone, you better assume, whoever you're going to mess with is armed, goes to rob a guy with a pellet gun, and then that guy who's a concealed carry. We don't need those things. That's just my opinion. But thank you for asking the question. Hold on, let me see if somebody hasn't asked the question. Yes, ma'am.
Julia Cardi, the Gazette.
Hi.
Are you able to say where it appears that Jor'Dell's hands were at the moment when he said, "Stop, you've got me"?
When he was on the ground, it's just part of the investigation. Let me just say this, because I think this is so important, and the attorney, quite honestly, knows the law better than I do. But when this goes in terms of criminal liability, civil liability, when they were in here, they had to back it up, slow it down, frame by frame. That is not what officers are going to be judged on. They're going to be judged, and I'm going to judge them ultimately when I make my decision internally for the internal affairs investigation, will be when he pulled the trigger, was it objectively reasonable? Understanding hindsight's 20/20, and I don't get to use that as a factor in terms of the way that we judge this. So it's great for us that weren't running after this young man from our community. It's great for us when we're sitting here slowing it down, including the attorneys. If they're honest, they're going to say they had to slow it down, back it up a bunch of, probably a dozen times or so, and that's the tough thing. This happened in real time. So I'm going to take one more question. I'll be honest with you. I actually plan on working patrol tonight, and I need to go get ready for that as well. And I need to monitor to see if our other event has ended. Who hasn't asked a question? Anybody else?
I have some nuts and bolts things I just want to.
Okay, hold on. Let me ask this. Who are you again?
Rob Harrison, Denver 7.
Okay, Denver 7. Go ahead.
The other two 14-year-olds who were arrested or in custody, did either of them have a weapon or a pellet?
No, the only individual that, to our knowledge, that had a firearm or a weapon of any kind was sadly Jor'Dell. And which brings us to the point that our GET team officer went in foot pursuit across another one of the kids into the park going west, and that kid was taken into custody without incident. Another kid that we got a call on that had taken off his shirt somewhere further away was taken into custody without incident. So we believe we have every kid identified now, and we're in the process of trying to find them. One more and I'm done. I'm sorry.
Sir,
you get the last one.
Thank you, sir. The officers who were involved in this incident appear to be in uniform. Were they in marked cars?
I can't remember. They're in what are colder cars that are unmarked, but you will notice that you got lights on them. They're full uniform, and as you recall when you look at the video later on, you'll see that we played. They actually hit the siren when they come in, and there was other cars coming in when the kids started running in different directions.
What did they rob from the store?
Sorry, what?
What did they rob from the store?
They took the one thing I know they took a lot of was vape canisters. All right, folks, I will just close with this to this community. It is important for us to understand that first and foremost, this is a tragedy. Like I said earlier, there's no winner in this. It is a tragedy. I would ask the family that I want them to know we'll continue to lift them in prayer. And I'm also lifting my officers in prayer. It's a tough, anytime you take a life, whether you're involved directly or indirectly, it's tough. It is tough for them, and it's tough for everyone involved. And lastly, any First Amendment activity, we're all about the First Amendment, but we will not tolerate those that would come out and try to hijack the pain of a family that has lost their 14-year-old, to come out here and cause property destruction and to cause wreck mayhem on our community. We're not going to tolerate that. I want to thank the family for their words, for their call for folks to actually respect them, respect their son, and I would just urge people, do not allow people to hijack this family's pain. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here.